Welcome to Delay the Decay, the podcast for unashamedly ambitious men who want to live longer, lead better, and love deeper, prioritizing what matters most. I'm your host, Dan Hardy, coach, entrepreneur, and former pastor, here to help you build a life of more intentional direction, not perfection, across 5 life domains: spiritual, relational, physical, mental, and financial. Welcome to another episode of the Delay the Decay with Dan Hardy podcast. And my special guest today is none other than the infamous Brian Mavis. Brian is a good friend of mine and has just meant a lot to me over the last 10 years. He's been a mentor in many ways to my life. And I just want to introduce Brian, just give him a proper introduction. Brian is a movement builder, a storyteller. He's an advocate of vulnerable children. Brian's journey includes serving as the pastor of community transformation, of LifeBridge Church down in Longmont, and as a U.S. National Director for the Externally Focused Church Network, where he mobilized thousands of churches to make a difference beyond their 4 walls. He has mentored nonprofit leaders, he's catalyzed citywide and nationwide movements, and he's helped communities love their most vulnerable members with clarity, with compassion, and with courage. Perhaps he's best known, at least in the last decade, as the founder of America's Kids Belong, a national nonprofit focused on dramatically improving the lives of kids in foster care. Brian's work is deeply personal, shaped by his own journey as a foster parent and an adoptive grandparent. And his new book, I can't wait to read this, is called Go Upstream. It explores how foster care intersects with 10 of society's deepest wounds. And we're gonna poke into that a little bit, by the way. Brian and his wife Julie have been married 33 years and are now in a season of being joyfully disrupted by grandkids. Mm-hmm. Do you remember how we first met, Brian?
Yes. If I'm right,
I was living under a bridge.
And you're making people pay tolls to cross stuff.
That's right.
So, our CrossFit had temporarily closed, and your church was nearby, and you allowed. I guess I approached you and I asked if we could use your church to work out in.
Yeah.
And you said yes. Is that right? Is that how we did it?
That's pretty much how it went down. And
that was 15 years ago or something like that?
It had to be 14, 15 years ago. Yeah. It brought me so much joy to be able to see you bringing in boxes and wall balls and slam balls into the.
And it was the first time some of our guys who worked out had been in a church.
Yes, that was very fun. But yeah, I think it was a gentleman that went to our church that was part of the gym that you were part of that introduced
That's
us.
right.
Yeah, and I walk by this guy's house pretty much every day, and and it brings me the reminder of God's kindness in introducing us.
Yeah.
So I got a question to start us off, and here's the question: what is one small decision that you have made lately that has helped you in the direction of your life?
Well, it's I have to tell your audience, you did not pay me to say this, but towards the beginning of this year, I reached out to you and just wanting to be better connected to you as a friend, and then you offered to not only do that but be a coach to me, and you're helping me. So for my listeners, I just turned 60, and man, that one hits different. And in fact, just saying I turned 60, I couldn't hardly do it, so I called it Brian 6.0. And that everybody, the upgrade was that everybody would now just have to learn to live with my bugs because they're called features, and I'm not changing. But with that change, I was like, gosh, I really want to hit 60 well. I want to hit it intentionally. And your example, you're 5 years older than me, is that right?
7.
Okay. But man, you're fit. And I really love your discipline, your dedication to that, and your whole philosophy of delaying the decay, because I feel like I've been advancing the decay. And so reaching out to you, and then so I would say to our listeners, I didn't reach out to get coached. I just reached out to wanting a healthy friend that lived nearby. And so I would say to our listeners, is there somebody who lives near you that you respect, and reach out to them? And again, this was part of my 6.0 decision. Was I wanted in my 60s to have a theme, and my theme was to be a faithful friend. And so that decision has been really important. And then there are little decisions that come from that, just again very recently, have to do with doing a minimum amount of exercise that I can do every day without an excuse. I can be in the middle of a small hotel room and do these exercises. And so to quote you, you said that the muscle I need to exercise the most is consistency. And so that decision's been a real helpful one.
Well, I'm thankful for that. Yeah, thanks for that plug. And just like anything, is that when you step out and serve, and like it feels weird to say that I'm serving you, because you're serving me. Like you're just a life-giving friend, Brian, a life-giving friend. And,
thanks.
And you're so honest and vulnerable. Appreciate your time. So thanks for that. You told me recently that you're not just about results, but you're about rhythm. That Brian 6.0, I love that. New features, same old bugs.
Yes.
Right? Brian 6.0 is about rhythm. What is Brian 6.0? Give us a little bit deeper dive into that. And what do you mean by rhythm? Does it have to do with these friends and family and relationships?
It does. And so, I mean, you could, traditionally it might be about like time management and how you start your day, how you end your day. But, and I definitely could make some improvements and all that. But the way I'm expressing it is trying to live life more intentionally with the relationships I have. And so, and a lot of times when people think of relationships, they think of only human relationships. And I'm saying, no, I have relationships with, I have a relationship with money. I have a relationship with my food. I have a relationship with movement. And like lately, part of the problem is my relationship with movement has been it's been mostly in a rocking chair, and so that's the movement I've been making. And so it's like gotta have a different relationship there, and relationship with God and myself and work. And so it has to do with this. Rhythms had to do with recognizing these domains of life. And again, you've been helpful to me on that, because typically I was just like, well, I'm about work and production. And it was like, gosh, I need to, and this idea of being a faithful friend also extends to a faithful son to my parents and husband and father and grandfather. And so like thinking about questions to live with. So like with that, one of the questions I would ask myself is, who needs me to be fully present right now? And so it has to do, my rhythm has to do with living a more full life, a little bit more alive. And recognizing there's other people in my life that need my attention. There's movement that needs attention. There's how I eat and why I eat that needs attention. There's money that needs attention, and that is creating a more alive rhythm. So there's an old quote that says see what I don't have it exactly right, but essentially it's something that like the glory of God is a man fully alive. And so it's just a big deal to be enthusiastic and paying attention and not drifting.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, Jesus said it the same thing, I think, in another way. He says, "I came to give life and give life abundantly,
Yes.
give life to the full." And living that life to the full is it's a present life. It's being present. It's living in our giftedness. It's stewarding these relationships. I love the way that you said it. I'm gonna be stealing it that way, and talking about that way is that like all 5 of these life domains are relationships with our Creator, with those that He has providentially put in our life, with our body, with our mind, and as you said, with our finances as well. We can have healthy relationships or unhealthy relationships with those. This is my phrase, and I'm going to put it on you, and you may bristle, but this podcast, my hopeful audience are those who are unashamedly ambitious. They're builders and they're creators. There's something in them that wants to build and create sustainable enterprises, ministries, businesses, families, to promote human flourishing, for the glory of God, for the good of others, and for our own joy. And as I look at your resume, and as I've gotten to know Brian Mavis over the last 14, 15 years, and even more intimately over the last 6 months, you're a man of ambition. You have created many things. I didn't list them all in that bio. That God has used you to really to create some pretty profound enterprises, if I can use that term, ministries, nonprofits. How? This is a loaded question, but how do you? You said it this way: there's a cost to unbalanced ambition, and what I love about that is that it's not saying I'm not going to be ambitious anymore. Yes, 6.0, you're ambitious about other things and these relationships, but my guess is, in fact, I know this because we've had conversations, you've already got ideas for 6.0 and 6.5 in like creating. This book is one of them, and this thing, this whole teaser to the audience is that you have a passion and you are an expert on the Shroud of Turin. And we're not going to divert too far into that today, but all to say that you are a creator and a builder. So as you head into Brian 6.0, how are you hoping to see life? What do you envision as you want to be present with people? You want to have healthier relationships in these 5 life domains, and you want to pursue some of these ideas that you believe that God has put on your heart and mind. There's a lot there, Brian, but it's really this unbalanced, the cost of unbalanced ambition. Yeah, I'll just let you go.
It's and I guess for me too, the idea of balance, I think that it's debatable because. I mean, if you're looking at 5 domains, it doesn't mean you spend 20% of your life on each of those. 20%. This gets 20%, that gets 20%. Sometimes it's like, well, this right now needs 80% of my life, and the other things are all going to get down to about 5%, and then it switches. And so it's recognizing seasons that you're in, recognizing what I call assignments, and again, that's just paying attention to. I guess a phrase I live with is what wants to happen. And so that also can just help you know what to pay attention to and focus on. And so I'll tell a story. I have a mentor. He passed away, but he is a remarkably interesting person. Holds a world record for flying across the United States faster than anybody else in a turboprop plane. His interviewed 2,000 of the top CEOs asking just about their character, and then invested in the top 60, did some other interesting things. But this thing about the plane. So it was, this was about 10 years ago. It was the second time I had met with him, and we were staying in Johnny Cash's parents' house. And
of course you were.
Yes, and so
everybody does that.
Yeah, so we were there, and there were a few of us, and he and I woke up. We were the first ones up in the morning, and he's kind of can be quiet, and so we were sitting there, and he's sitting to my left at the kitchen table, and drinking some bad coffee. And I said, "Hey Joe, I see that you have the world record for flying across the United States faster than anybody else. Tell me about that." And he said, I didn't really want to do it, but I have this friend named Steve Fawcett who liked collecting world records, and I had the plane for it, and Chuck Yeager had this record, and Steve wanted to take it from him. And so, but when Chuck got it, he took everything out of his plane that wasn't needed for flight. He flew alone, and when he flew so hard that when he landed, he had to throw away both his engines, which amounted to $1 million worth of engines. Oh, and then he said, when I flew, I had my buddy with me. We didn't take anything out of the plane, and when we landed, the engines were fine. And by he didn't mention he crushed the record by over 100 miles an hour.
Oh my goodness!
So anyway, his last line is, "And my engines were fine," and he. And then I was like, this guy doesn't know how to really tell a story. So I said, how'd you do it? And he finally takes a sip of coffee, and he hasn't looked at me this whole time. He's been looking straight ahead. And then he says, he takes a sip of coffee, he looks at me, and he says, "Tailwind. Always look for tailwind." And then he goes into kind of parable mode. He goes, and the way you can create tailwind, in fact, is by choosing who to work with. And there'll either be a headwind to you or a tailwind to you. So part of this whole thing, again, about relationships and not burning out is finding the right people to be with in your life. So you've got people in your family that are bring tailwind to you, and some that don't. But you also have choices beyond that, as far as like I said, reaching out to you is a perfect example of earlier this year. Me wanting to be a better friend, reaching out to you, and hopefully we've brought mutual benefit to each other.
Absolutely.
One of the best years of my life, I made a commitment. It was I was going to outbless everyone I met. And it is just this idea of like be in good relationships, and then also try to be a blessing to people, and then tailwind will happen in your life. Of course, you get surprises sometimes. It'll knock you sideways, but this idea of kind of paying attention to assignments, what wants to happen, looking for tailwind, looking for key people who can bring that tailwind to your life. That's a lot of how I operate. So I would say like one of the most common prayers I have is, God, help me meet who you want me to meet, and help me to avoid who you want me to avoid. If you do, that helps a lot in life.
I love it. Yeah, it reminds me of Henry Blackaby's quote, right? Lord, what are you doing?
Yes.
And how do you want me to respond, right? What are you
doing? Yeah, and so I would say that is a very similar, because at times I said each decade of my life I kind of recreated myself, but it's not been so much initiation as it has been response. Like, God, what do you want to happen? And so, and then you pay attention, and things start happening.
Yeah, Brian, as you were, has there been a time in your life, and maybe it was leading up to calling me, or up to 60, where you experienced the cost of unbalanced ambition, whether it be with your health or in your relationships?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So like health wise, started having a lot of chest pains, and started seeing a cardiologist, and eventually, in spite of me doing really well on a treadmill at that time, I couldn't do it well today, but I did well enough that they thought I didn't have heart problems, but I eventually did do an angiogram, which led to an angioplasty, and so and I pay attention to that. I, gained too much weight, was too sedentary, gone a lot. I mean, just on the road all the time. And at times, that felt really exciting, but then, there were brand new grandkids in my life, and I would, miss some key moments and things like that. So that has a lot to do with, again, it's the 60s is different as far as my ambition goes. It always has been like, create a thing that doesn't exist, that should exist. And now it's like, hey, pay attention to the people in your life that are around you and be ambitious about that.
Yeah, love that. And just so the audience knows, so they don't, like, as you're talking about being out of shape, and this guy, you're 60, and you're probably in the top 10 or 20% of that age as far as weight and fitness and that. You're not a slug. So I just want everybody to know that, like, you are.
It's good genetics, also.
But what I love about so many things, but what I so appreciate about you, Brian, is that you're self-aware, and you want to be the best version of yourself, because you know that while taking care of your body and paying attention to what you eat and trying to get more sleep, and you're going to be a better version of yourself with the people that you're with. It's all combined, isn't it?
Yes.
It's all combined. When we're feeling good about our exercise routine and what we're eating and sleeping better, like it impacts our relationships.
And I would say for some people who might be wired by it, like me, that are like very like create, build, or have I'm spiritually oriented towards like doing things that are meaningful, and so you can end up over spiritualizing some of the things that you do, and then diminishing the body that God gave you. And so I just want myself and others to recognize how important it is that you steward well the body that you have, the one body that you get in this life. And that when that is, I found when I'm feeling better and more energetic, then my relationships with other people are going better. My head feels a little bit more clear, and I'm thinking, and so it's I've always kind of appreciated it, but more than ever, I guess as you hit your 60s, you can't just like take for granted your health, and now you got to work for it. But it pays off in more than just being physically healthy. It pays off being better, more energetic with the grandkids, and better mood with your wife, and better ideas for work. And so it has a ripple effect on the other domains. I would say, like, the domains, don't think the domains as silos. They're all woven together, and so they all touch each other. And so if you're physically not doing well, it's going to impact the other domains of your life.
I need to have you sketch out a picture of that. Like, you are just really good at bringing ideas come to life. I think through them. I think living a balanced life is a misnomer. It's just like, what does it even mean? because life is continually evolving. It's more living the prioritized life, and when I think about it, it's like prioritized life for me is that I'm going to think first and foremost about am I prioritizing? Am I trying to bring honor and glory to my Creator? Am I creating margin to be able to spend time with the people that God has provided? My wife, my kids, my grandkids, right there, right, and then my body as well. And I will, and you know me, like I'm a 6-day-a-week workout guy, but I will miss a workout if it. If somebody is in need, particularly a family member, there's a birthday party, there's a baseball game. I will miss. If I can do them both, I'll try to do both.
Yeah.
But I think through priorities, and that just makes my decision making easier. Because I have a value system, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's good. So I want to transition to your new book, Go Upstream, and when will that be released?
We're recording this at the very beginning of July, and it should be out by the end of August, so the end of summer.
Fantastic. Well, you mentioned that this book, or foster care, it'll talk about or explore how foster care intersects with 10 of society's deepest wounds. And maybe stay high level on this. Are these wounds, these 10 wounds, are these wounds that we all carry, or is it specific to those in foster care?
No, it's not something that we all carry, though you can definitely carry it without having been in foster care. So really kind of how this happens for me was my wife and I, we became foster parents 20 years ago. And then I was at this church where it was about community transformation, and we had partnerships with all sorts of other organizations and nonprofits helping bringing volunteers and that kind of thing. And you could do all sorts of things. You could groom a dog, you could groom a trail, you could serve at the soup kitchen, and you could do all these things. But as we were getting into people with real hard stuff in their lives, we're like, okay, we need to do something that doesn't feel as transactional, feels more transformational. And the other thing was realizing, gosh, there's so many of these people, they have a common backstory, and that common backstory was a hard childhood. And that hard childhood a lot of times was connected to what we call foster care, so a child welfare system. And so I started getting, you get this conviction of the heart of like seeing, when you start seeing kids in that situation, your heart goes out to them. But what really got my imagination going was how strategic this was. It was like, okay, thank God for organizations and ministries that help people who are struggling with addiction or are struggling with suicide, or they're homeless, or they're poor, they've been incarcerated and they're coming out of jail or something like that. But I thought, wouldn't it be good if we could help kids who don't have families so that 10 years down the road they won't need one of those ministries because they're homeless now, or they're addicted or something like that. And so really kind of the line that I came up with, made sense to people right away, was a good family is better than a great program. It's like, it's nice to have these great programs, but a good family would have been better. And so this is my drive to say, hey, look, we can keep whacking at these roots whacking at the limbs of these social wounds, like homelessness or addiction or something like that. But if you were just to go out and ask people who were homeless, how many of you were in foster care, you'd find a ton of them were. If people leaving jail time, how many of you were in foster care? A ton of them were. And so eventually I got to where it was like, here's 10 social wounds. There's actually more than that, but it's like, let's just call these 10. And so essentially kids who age out of foster care, who are not connected to a family. They're not connected to their biological family. They're not connected to any other families who stepped up to kind of help them. They end up drifting, and they end up being a leading pipeline to issues of trauma or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and they have that at twice the rate of U.S. Veterans of war. Half of former foster youth suffer from some sort of chronic physical problem, and that could be from having grown up with abuse or neglect that has now lived on. Former foster youth are 4 times more likely to have attempted suicide or committed suicide than their peers. On sex trafficking, the statistics vary, but a majority of child sex trafficking victims, so it's not less than 50%, and it could be up to 90%. I've seen all sorts of different stats. They've all have been in foster care. 1/3 of kids who've aged out of foster care can admit to struggling with drugs or alcohol. 1/3 of foster alumni live at or below the poverty line. 20% of foster youth will become homeless the day they age out. 43% of women and 74% of men who were in foster care have been incarcerated at least once. Teen pregnancy for girls who've been in foster care, the rate of pregnancy for being pregnant before 19 is 3 times higher than the national average. And then generational foster care, that's the 10th one. It's the strongest predictor of child entering foster care is the mother's own history. So if the mother has been in foster care, that's the most predictable indicator that their child will be in foster care.
Do you have a stat on that? Because I've come up close and personal with that in our own family, as far as a mom, for example, that has come out of foster care or was in foster care. What percent of the kids?
I don't know if I have a percent. I could look into that, but it is. There was a study. Yeah, there was a study done of like what are the things, like addiction would be one, obviously. Like if the mother is addicted, that has a attributable likelihood towards the child going into foster care. Well, that is less. Being an addict is less of a predictor than the mom having been in foster care. So because they kind of live with this idea of that's just how you do life. You have a baby and you lose it.
Yeah. And when you're talking about this, is it foster kids that specifically have aged out, or take a foster child? You know my story partially. With we're also adoptive grandparents, and this little girl that my daughter and her husband brought in when she was 3 months old, they just signed up for respite care. They just thought, they had all their own kids. They had 4 kids of their own, and they said, but this is one thing we can do, is to be a respite for foster parents when they need a break, or if they get a call that a kid's been removed from a home, and lo and behold, they get a call that this little girl has been removed from a home, and they take her in for a weekend, and a weekend turns into a week, and it turns into a month, into a year, and then next thing you know, the parental rights were revoked from the mom, and my daughter and her husband adopted her, and we got to be adoptive grandparents. And I asked my son-in-law along this journey, when it looked like the mom's parental rights were going to be revoked, and Nat and Jared would have the option to adopt this baby, and I said, "How does this feel?" And he said, "It is the saddest of times for us, and the happiest of times, because we all fell in love with this little girl, but there was just a deep sadness for the mom, in this whole deal. And so foster kids, these all these stats you just said, are they true of mainly foster kids that age out, or are they true? Will those statistics apply potentially to my granddaughter?
I would say, okay, so the statistics I gave have to do with kids who age out, who are not connected to a family, not to their biokin, and not to, typically what happened was they got bounced around, they ended up in a group home, and they have no family relationship with it. And so that's the statistics that go there. The children who end up being connected and belonging to a family, their outcomes are far more positive. That doesn't mean, though, that they still aren't dealing with, their own. They're going to have to deal with their own personal, some identity stuff, loss, maybe abandonment, feelings of that. Some of these kids, were born addicted to things, and so. There's some of that they might have to deal with, but as they grow up and they work through those, they have a family that they know they know they're loved, and they have people that they can turn to that are trustworthy. They belong, and so that improves their likelihood of thriving as adults big time.
I've just had an epiphany of sorts as we've been talking here, and Delay the Decay is very much about delaying the decay. The inevitable's coming, but it's about doing the things on the front end: exercise, nutrition, mental health. Not being alone, strong relationships, connection with our Creator, that delays the decay. And so many people rely on the taking care of the symptoms after they come by. I didn't take care of these relationships with my body, with my wife, with my kids, with my money, and now I'm having to take the medication or that type of thing. And I'm not saying that medication's bad. It's a gift that it's there. But if we were doing some preventative maintenance on the front end, and I hear the same thing, it's a parallel with foster kid, is that thankfully there's these organizations on the back end. If they do end up getting addicted to drugs, or they do go to prison, that type of thing. But we can have less kids being a part of those good programs if we're doing the preventative maintenance on the front end, which is adoption. Is one of them.
And so it's coming in, and like your own daughter and son-in-law was. I mean, they didn't have that in mind at first, so they were there just to say, "Hey, we're gonna take care of this child while the mom tries to take care of herself." And with the hope that maybe the reunification happened. Eventually, the story plays out, and you discover the mom is not doing what she needs to do. She remains an addict. I mean, again, I don't know the exact story, but I'm just telling what typically happens. Or you end up discovering something horrifying that happened while the child was in their care, and that disqualifies them forever from being a safe person. And then that adoption happens. So it is, again, it's the way kids need families. Kids need adults in their lives. And if a kid has a family, even if they have one trusting adult, if it's a single parent, I know adoptive parents who are single moms and single dads. That changes the kid's life for typically and for the better forever.
Yeah. How about if I'm not? I'm way beyond the adoptive years. I'll take any adoptive grandkids my kids might bring in.
Yes.
but there is if you're called to this, if this is your assignment, to use your words, even being a CASA
Yes.
could step in and be that person
Yeah.
for a foster child.
Yeah, and like so, ACASA is stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. So you essentially act as you help the child, and you're their advocate as they have to go through the legal system. Of course, they're a kid; they don't understand any of that. Or you could do like your own kids did. Start off with just like a respite, and that's fancy word for a babysitter. But it's a babysitter who's gone through some special training, background check to make sure that they're safe, because not anybody can babysit a foster child. But you give people who are fostering 24/7 relief, and so you do that. Or like if you're good at math, you can be the math tutor, or if you're good at making blueberry muffins, bring some blueberry muffins over. Everyone can do something.
That's really good. America's kids belong.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Why did you found it? What were
Yeah.
your hopes?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, there are kind of two origin stories that happened right at the same time. One with my wife and one with me. And so back in 2007, we were fostering, and we had a little boy with us that we had since birth. Helped wean him off from some drugs and stuff that in the hospital. Brought him home. Helped raise him for about his first year, and we were working towards reunification with his biological mom and dad. Then one day we got a phone call. I was at work, and so my wife got the phone call. It was our caseworker. She said, "Hey, I need to talk to you right away. An emergency has happened." So she comes over to the house and she explains, "Look, something's happened between the parents that has now made them disqualified from ever reunifying with their son. They're not safe people." And so she explains all this, and then she says, "So the plan has changed, and this child needs to be adopted. And would you be open to that?" And so my wife, we're floored because we've really worked hard towards reunification, and we didn't expect this at all. And so my wife starts asking all sorts of questions, and she's, "Gosh, we really love them," and so she's asking questions, and then she asks this one question. She says, she asks, "So what would happen to him if we said no?" And our caseworker said, "Oh, well, he'll be fine. There's a line of people waiting for the babies. I just wish there was a line for all the other kids." And then my wife asked, "What other kids?" And she goes, "Oh, well, in Colorado, there's 800 kids who are available for adoption, but nobody wants them." And my wife's like, "Why doesn't anybody want them?" She's like, "Well, like I said, they're not babies, and they come with siblings and that kind of thing." So I come home, unpack this, go to bed at night. It's dark, and my wife just says, "Gosh, I just can't quit thinking about these 800 other kids. This is unjust. Somebody needs to do something." And I was like, "Oh crap." So
Here we go.
Here we go. And so then nearly at the same time, like as my memory serves me, like within weeks, I'm on staff at a church in Boulder County. I get a call from a caseworker. Says, "Can I meet with you about child welfare in this county?" I said, "Sure." So she comes over to the church a few days later, meet with her in the lobby. She introduces herself. Then we go back to my office. And she says to me after some visiting, she says, "Brian, I really just came here to tell you one thing. In the 26-year history of child welfare in this county, there's never been one day, not a single day in 26 years, where kids weren't waiting for families to take care of them." And she said, "I have a challenge for you. Help me change who waits. Help me recruit so many grown-ups who will step up that they'll be on the waiting list, and it won't be the kids." So felt convicted by that, and again, what was happening in our own lives. And so accepted that challenge, and we did have a strategy, but we had a couple of convictions. One was that it wasn't that people didn't care, it wasn't that families didn't care, that grown-ups didn't care. It was just they were unaware. They didn't know. They didn't know there was a need. They didn't know these kids existed. And we were foster parents and didn't know these kids existed. So how would anybody else know?
Yeah.
And the second conviction that we had was the best advocates for these kids weren't preachers, they weren't politicians, weren't caseworkers. the best advocates for these kids would be the kids themselves. If people could just not hear a stat, not hear a case file number, but could actually know a name, see a face, hear a voice, that it would change things. So we ended up getting permission to photograph the kids and then write their stories and eventually video the kids. And it really made a huge difference, where the number of kids at that time went from 800 down into the high 200s. And then
That's amazing.
And then a little bit over 10 years ago, then we were challenged to take our work beyond Colorado. So it was called Adopt Colorado Kids. At first, it was just me and my wife doing stuff, and then the state said we had to do a nonprofit because of what our work entailed. And then Adopt Colorado Kids became America's Kids Belong, and now we're in multiple states, and we continue to do that one work, but we also do work to help support foster and adoptive families. We've done campaigns with governors, helping get these major sectors of the business community, the faith community, and the political community all to work together. And I heard years ago, heard a quote that it's an African proverb that says, when the elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. And so the idea is that you have these major sectors of the nonprofit and faith community, you have the sector of the business community, the sector of the government, and they're not working together, and to the point that it looks like they're fighting. And who's suffering? The kids. And so part of what we did was get these groups to say, let's work together on helping the kids. So did that, and one thing leads to the next, and I've just continued to work on, again, my goal for AKB is that we be the most trusted organization in this space, that that people, we say what we're going to do, we do what we say, that we really work hard to protect the child, that we're very child-centered, and that, we're trustworthy.
Yeah, boy, I love it, Brian. It's just, you're a man who, I know Julie's a part of this as well, but when the Lord lays something on your heart, you take the next step.
We do, yeah. That's true. We and again, there's no grand vision. So there's just conviction, and it's like, hey, what's the most important thing we do? The next thing we do is the most important thing we do. So you just take that step, and it's like, can you see far down the road? Like, nope. But every time I take a step, I can see a little further.
What are you most encouraged with as it pertains to just the foster kids, older foster kids getting adopted, and what keeps you up at night? What are you encouraged by, and what keeps you up at night?
There's, we were talking about the background, and I don't know if the people are listening can't see the background of your wall, and then you have the wall of fame and a wall of shame together, and it's just the realities of life are good and bad and hard and easy, and so there's sad stories that we hear all the time, and tragic and evil stories even, and then we hear these amazing stories of hope and redemption and love and joy and belonging. And so it's those good stories that we get to hear. Some kids who are just remarkably kind, remarkably gracious, remarkably resilient, remarkably brave, families who step up in extraordinary ways. All those things. I work and get to meet some of the best people I've ever met in my life because they're just so open-hearted. And so that is good. And I'll tell you what, I've got a great staff. I love, even though we are decentralized and we work mostly on Zoom, they're wonderful people. And then, oh boy, do I even want to head down this road. The child welfare system has made some moves in the past few years that I don't agree with. And theoretically it sounds good. On paper it sounds good. It's called the Family First Act, and its idea of really prioritizing reunification or prevention over anything else. And I'll just say that sounds great. I'm all for that, except when it's at the expense of the safety of a child. And I believe that children now, there are more children being unnecessarily harmed, and even I know some that have even some stories nearby that of a baby recently that was killed by the bio mom.
Oh gosh,
that should have never happened.
Oh boy.
And so I feel like I am now going to be a contrarian voice to, like, I've got headwind here, and now the best I can do is try to, I'll change the metaphor. History of child welfare every decade or so they overcorrect, and they start leaning too much on child removal, and then they overcorrect on child reunification or prevention and not removing the child, and then more kids die, and so then they overcorrect again. They keep just steering into one ditch after the other instead of driving down the road. And so I feel like what I'm going to have to do, and again, it's good. There's good people involved, but there's a bad system, and people who aren't intimately related, who don't really know the work, are making the decisions.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's again, I think with people listening here, one of the things that you pay attention to, again, what wants to happen. Sometimes it's not like, oh, there's a lot of momentum here and a lot of optimism. It's instead of like, what's wrong that's kind of getting you mad.
Yeah. Wow.
And then you're like, well, I guess I got to do this now.
Got to do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My it's such a tension. I have not lived in this world. I'm an Enneagram 8, and us Enneagram 8s, there's a lot wrong with us. But one of our
and a lot of good too. If you're a healthy 8, there's a lot of. If you're not, though, wow.
One of our superpowers is we're protectors, right? We just want to step in and protect. And I've always had that heart for kids and for families, whether it be the homeless or whatever. And I've got a greater compassion for kids in the system, but I have a compassion for the adults that are actually doing the harm, and that's I don't know what to do with that, and I'm actually going to answer my own question. Is that if organizations like Kids Belong are successful, in getting these kiddos adopted so they're not aging out, where they belong and where they're seen and heard and loved and cared for, that's going to reduce the next generation's problem a little bit. There's not going to be as many parents that are having to give up their kids because they're being abused. So, but there's a part of me where my granddaughter's bio mom, she's given up 5 kids.
Yeah.
And she it's like, man, I don't know what we can do to help somebody like that.
Imagine losing 5 kids, and sometimes it happens all at once, and sometimes you just lose a kid at a time because you keep repeating the same thing. And you have another baby that's born addicted, and you're out of it. And so I think, as far as if you want to again have a more accurate perspective on what's happening here, is one thing you can probably safely assume is that mom had a really bad childhood. It's not an excuse, but it explains some things. And you're like, okay, maybe this person isn't evil. Maybe they're just deeply wounded and broken. And so you can have compassion towards them. And they may never get to be in a place where there can be a reunification, but there could be a place where forgiveness could happen, and that could bring a lot of peace between her and the rest of her family, or whoever you're dealing with. And so again, we're not just like all about adoption. Adoption is we're about adoption if that's what's best for the child, but we're also trying to bring more people who are good people into like being willing to work with those bio parents so that reunification can happen. If reunification can happen safely, then absolutely let that happen. And if it can't, then I said like I said, adoption. Sometimes those families are called forever families, and with foster care, I call them for now families. So like we're a family for now, maybe not forever, but ultimately what we need are flexible families. Like I'll be your for now family, and if you need a forever family, we'll be that too. And that's exactly what your daughter and son-in-law were and are.
That's so good. And if the audience has never been to an adoption hearing, like when the judge pronounces that you now belong to this forever family, it's powerful. It's powerful. It's emotional. Two last questions for you. Two last questions. If somebody wants to be involved or to give financially to America's Kids Belong, how would they do that?
Yeah, well, if you want to just go to our website and AM, the two first initials, America's amkidsbelong.org, and just look around. There's all sorts of resources there. We got all and one of the more popular pages is we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos of kids who are waiting to be adopted, and so you can look through that, and then you can just make an inquiry of I like to learn more. How can I take my next step? And so we can help you with just kind of starting that learning journey. And then and of course, if that's something that you feel you want to help just with financially, then there is a way to donate on that website as well.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, it is a worthy investment of one's money. So yeah, here's the last question. Brian 6.0, what would you say to Brian 4.0? And as it pertains primarily to delaying the decay and having healthy relationships with those 5 domains that might have you in a better place today. I feel like you're in a great place, Brian. But what would you say to your 40-year-old self? I'll just leave it right there. I won't put any more words in your mouth. What would you say?
A couple of things came to mind as you were putting that out there. One is just be present. Live in the now. Don't live. I live in my head a lot, and I tend to live in the future or the past. And it's hey, life is happening right now, right in front of you, and so be present and not that I was bad at this, but I could have used more advice on that side. But what I'm about to say is also just show up. There's a quote that I like. It says, "You can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to show up." So just keep showing up in people's lives. If you get a nudge, you're starting to think about somebody, check in on them. So be present. And then I would, for me, it would be of the domains, be intentional. I have been not as consistent. I've had seasons where I've done better than others. About being more intentional about my physical life and moving, and my financial life would be another one where I would just pay attention, live intentionally. Don't just bury your head in the sand. And so I think it helps. Some people aren't even aware of the domains of their lives. I mean, they're just it's all just one big tangled knot. And so to recognize you've got these a relationship with these different parts of your life, and have a plan, or at least live with some key questions around there. The money one, it's what story do I want my money to tell about my values? It's okay, keep living with that question, and then you'll start making different money choices.
So good, Brian. It's never too late to start. There's things that we could have done better, but like whether you're 6.0 or 6.5 or 5.5, it's like today's a day to just take that next small step. Small step.
Yes. Yeah. And again, so physically, the advice you gave me was what's something challenging, but is a small step physically that there's no excuses. You could do it every day. You could, outside of, being lying in bed in the hospital, but if I were in a hotel room, if I were in the bathroom of an airport, I still want to wash my hands after doing the push-ups, but I could fulfill my exercises.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to take away from today. A couple things I'm going to hang on to is just a whole tailwind illustration. Look for tailwinds.
Yes.
That's oftentimes where God is working, where He's moving, what He wants to step into, and then be present with people. There will never be a regret. You'll never be sorry that you showed up and you were present with people. Right, Brian?
Yes, that's the truth. Yeah, especially as you age, you realize how important that is.
Big time. Well, this has been a joy. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us, and we will do it again. Delay the Decay listeners, until next time, remember it's not about direction. It's not about perfection. It's about direction. Just stay on the direction that God has you. Make adjustments along the way. You're never going to be perfect. There's never going to be a perfect time to move forward. Start today. It's about direction, not perfection. So until next time, keep delaying the decay. Thanks for listening to Delay the Decay. If today's conversation resonated with you, follow, subscribe, and share with someone else on the journey. Until next time, keep prioritizing what matters. And remember, it's about direction, not perfection.